give it up again if you're in the hall. Come on. Here we go. Here come a couple mics. You each get one.
Okay, cool.
Give it a little test for us.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
How they sounding? Can everybody hear?
I sound okay?
All right. Dan, Alan, oh my gosh, thank you guys for being here. It is Two Rivers Comic-Con. We are in we can move these around. Look out for my water bottle. This is why we bought this one, so it doesn't spill. Two Rivers Comic-Con, this is a grassroots event, man. James Install, Geek to Me Radio, local podcast and radio show. Check it out. Him and Paul running around from Cloud9 Comics have made this happen. I mean, if you've been to Comic-Cons in St. Louis, we want to do it better. And this one's a local grassroots. You're going to see a lot of local vendors, a lot of big names right here next door, as well as Dan and Alan with their booth at the opposite end. Thank you guys so much. Batman, the animated series. Superman, the animated series. Batman Beyond. Green Lantern, First Flight. Ben 10.
Yeah.
We're going to jump all over the place today, and we're going to answer some questions from the fans. So to get us going, why don't we start with one of my favorites? And you got to watch out. I'll ask all my personal questions if you don't ask yours. I grew up on Batman, the animated series. Thank you guys, first of all. What did that work mean to you? Let's start with you, Dan, working on this one. I know, Riba, you directed this one. Burnett, you wrote and produced. What was this like working on Batman, the animated series, looking back at it after all these years?
Looking back on it, that's like, I can tell you what it was like working on it. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun because we were living a dream. I was a big Batman fan my whole life, so the idea of it was like a culmination of a career, learning to draw and going to school of visual arts and learning comics and animation and then getting to work on the show. It was great. It was great.
And how about you, Alan?
Well, Batman is my favorite superhero, and I grew up on him. And I remember the first time I read a Batman comic book. I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I had been reading Popeye and Archie and.
Can you guys hear? Can you hear him okay?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then one day, I got a Batman comic, and I was like 9 or 10. I'm reading this comic book, and it was like it was like I lost my virginity reading that comic book. It was just like, it was an adult world. I understood it, and it had these mean characters. It was great. So Batman and I go back very far, and I also did the last 2 years of the Super Friends show. So I go way back in animation. And at that time, I wanted to do a more fun, more serious sort of Super Friends, but we had to appeal to 2-year-olds at that time in our audience. So when I got the opportunity to do Batman as he should be done, with fights and guns and gangsters and all that, I loved it. I loved it.
And congratulations. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I want to say that Alan actually, I remember watching it when I was in college. He did the Batman origin on Super Friends, and you managed to get it through BS&P somehow. And I remember noting that when I was in school, going, wow, they actually pulled this off. They actually got his origin story told without showing a gun or showing his parents actually die, but it was all there. If you knew what happened, you knew what you were watching. It was really cool.
It was actually a Batman pilot that I wrote. This was 1985, somewhere in there. And the ABC allowed me to write a Batman pilot, but it was too much for them. It was just too violent for Saturday morning and all that. But I managed to rework the story into the last year of Super Friends. And it was the first time on TV that Batman's story with the parents dying and everything had been told. So,
yeah.
So we did manage to do that, even for Saturday morning.
Adam West only talked about it, but you actually showed it. So.
Yes. So.
And I just have to say, you achieved it. You found that perfect blend. So we're talking about Batman are you already getting the itch to ask a question? We'll give the opportunity. You raise your hand. You come right up to the mic. Come on up, sir. Here we go. Let's get the fan questions going. We started with Batman, but the question is yours.
Okay, it's not in particular any comic that you guys did, just a general question about storytelling and animation. I am just curious, in each of your opinions, what is the most important aspect of telling a news story or a story about any like an original character or something? Like, you know, what's your idea of the most important aspect of telling telling a story?
Well, you give them a good villain. That's important. You give them something they can fight against that really gives you a measure of your hero's worth. But that's, I think, the first thing is to give a problem to your hero that is so difficult that it becomes interesting how he's going to overcome it. I mean, that's the basic thing in Saturday morning animation shows, or in just generally superhero shows, is that the villain always has to be stronger than the hero at the beginning.
I would ask, you know, we've spent some time on Batman, and then you got to spend some time on Superman, the animated series, but, you know, and then we're talking about Justice League and Justice League, getting a little feedback, Justice League Unlimited. And I want to ask, you know, when you're putting together a team like the Justice League and you have the dichotomy between Batman, Superman, all of those, what important things, you know, let's talk to you, Dan, as the director. What kind of things do we do to tell so many stories at one time with so many strong people? Do you set some rules for yourself to kind of keep the focus for each episode? What was the process like there?
We were kind of learning our way when it came to a group like that, because we didn't have to deal with that before, and we knew it was going to be hard. So it was tough because, and you can see it in the first season, that we were kind of floundering a little bit, because you've got a character like Superman who could really take care of most of these problems on his own. So he had to be taken out.
Like out of the picture sometimes.
Out of the picture somehow, so that the other characters could shine.
He's in space, so.
Or knocked out by some gas or something. He had to be knocked out so others could do stuff, and we had to find better ways. Later on, we learned how to do that better. But in the early episodes, it became really apparent that we were kind of learning how to deal with this. And also, it was one of those things where we had to downplay certain powers that overlapped with other people. Like the Flash is fast. That's what he's got. He's got to be faster than Superman on our show, or else, you know, it kind of diminishes him. So we couldn't really show a lot of Superman super speed stuff, which hurt me, because I came up with the smear effect for the Superman show, when he would kind of blur in and be faster than a speeding bullet, when he'd blur into a scene. And I came up with the timing for that, and I remember Bruce giving me the talk. We're like, you know, we're not going to be able to do that anymore.
Did you send notes to Smallville?
What's that?
Smallville, Tom Welling. Did you send them the notes? I feel like they did a pretty good job on the blur. It was live action.
Yeah, well,
they tried, but
they, you know, we were first.
You were, absolutely. That's what I meant. No, totally. Get the credit. Let's do another fan question. Here we go. Come on up, and feel free to say your name and your question.
Hi, I'm Lily, big fan. When it comes to working with such, I guess this kind of ties into your answer to the other guy's question. When it comes to writing with superheroes, and I guess my question is mainly towards the Batman side, was there a certain villain or obstacle that you particularly loved? Like, because I know a lot of people talk about Batman, they're like, oh yeah, Batman's great, but so are his villains. They're absolutely fantastic. My personal favorites, Clayface and Harley, and I just want to know if you guys had your favorites to work with.
Favorite Batman villains? Thank you. Great question. Dan, Alan?
You know, it's funny because as a director, you don't really get a chance to pick everything that you get, so that, you know, might have liked to have worked more with Two-Face or Clayface. I didn't really get those shows. So it was one of those things where it wasn't like, oh boy, but the stuff that I got to work with, like Baby Doll, I think was one of the ones that like had the most heart, and it actually spoke to me personally somehow, because it was like goofy, cartoony, and yet really tragic, really emotional, very noir, and still silly at the same time. It was a really fun show for me, and that's when I still like drawing Baby Doll for people, and I really loved that character.
I liked, I like them all, but Two-Face I particularly liked. And that was, when I talked about the first comic book I ever read, it was a Two-Face story. And and what we tried to do in Batman was give the villains some humanity all the time. I mean, there was always some tragedy in their lives that made them become what they became. And Mr. Freeze is the ultimate example, I guess, because he lost his wife and he had to take vengeance on that. But they all have some human quirks and characteristics. The only one who doesn't really is Joker. The only one we don't explain is the Joker. He's just bad. The man's just bad all the time. But I think that one of the reasons that the villains stood out in this particular series is that we gave them some psychology. We approached them as a person. So, and I also want to make mention that I love your shoes. I just want to say that.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It's the first thing I noticed
really
when
Shout
I
out.
sat down were your shoes.
Really
Nice.
One's red and one's black.
That's great.
Very nice. Good Harley. Very good job. Shout out to we got a lot of great cosplayers out here. Right here in the front. Come on up, sir. And we'll try to get to everybody. We got some time here.
Hi. So I'm sure you've heard this before, but to me, the Batman in the animated series is the Batman, as opposed to all the other versions, Adam West excluded, of course. How did you think about what you were inheriting from the Tim Burton movies that obviously were put into the cartoon versus bringing your own visions to it?
Well, Tim Burton, by the way, was invited to join us in the show. Steven Spielberg had created with the Warner Brothers group Animaniacs and
Tiny Toons.
And so the people on the lot said, hey, maybe we'll bring in Tim Burton for the Batman show. And Tim Burton actually reviewed our show, but decided we were doing fine without him. He was doing fine without us. So he went on his merry way. So we had sort of control for the kind of show we wanted to do. And the show we wanted to do was basically take the best of the comic books and put them into the show. The stuff that we loved about the comics, because we were all fans, Dan, I, and the whole cast and crew, we were all fans. And that's why the show, I think that's why the show reverberated with so many people, is because it reminded them of the Batman that they grew up on.
Yeah.
So.
I would just say, let's just touch on a little bit Batman Mask of the Phantasm. This is maybe one of the favorite Batman movies of Scotty Scoop on our podcast, Mostly Superheroes. You can come to the booth over at the Steel Shop, and he said you got to get a question in there about that movie. So I feel like you mentioned a lot about how the animated series, you use the phrase "My Batman" a lot, and that's how I feel too. We'll talk about the differences on Mask of the Phantasm and what went into that as it complemented the series and what was different about the series.
Well, it was Alan's idea for one thing, so he gets all the credit, all the blame.
Thank you.
He gets all the credit. No, the blame is not yours because it's only animation flaws. If anything, it's the best Batman movie ever. It really is. And as much as I like the animation and other stuff that came after, Mask of the Phantasm connects with an audience, and it really helps sort of solidify Batman's origin. And the cool thing is, if you watch the first section where Batman beats up some thugs, Bruce Timm boarded that, and he went ahead and did almost everything that BS&P told us we weren't allowed to do. So that kind of shows like this is not the TV show. This is a movie. This is a well, it was a direct-to-video at the time, but it was a movie. It was different, because the gunplay is more direct. We weren't allowed to have a gunfire and hit in the same shot. We weren't allowed to connect punches on faces. All these things that we were not allowed to do, Bruce did in that. There was blood. It's like all the little things. It's like he just checked off all the list of all the things we can't do and did it, except maybe child endangerment. So.
And the reason we did that story was because we didn't. We had it first began as a video. It was going to be a made-for-home video, and so we started getting into it. But we wanted to make it a movie-feeling video. And we hadn't done a story about Bruce Wayne's origin or his romantic life, nor have we ever touched on Joker's possible origin, which we do in that show. So those were the reasons why we made that particular show. In the beginning, as I say, this show was supposed to be going straight to home video. And we had a producer, Eric Radomski, who was experimenting with CGI at the time, and had created the opening for the Batman show, for Mask of the Phantasm, which, if you remember, is a sort of a shot of going through Gotham City, where Gotham City is in CG, and an executive from the studio lot came over to the animation studios and was looking at what we were doing and saw that particular thing and said, hey, this should be in the theaters. And so that's how that movie ended up going in the theaters. It's all Eric's doing, I would say.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
They need to get that going in the theaters again. I don't know if they bring it back and circulate it again, but they should. Let's do another fan question. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you touching on that. I'm going to go here. And you, all right? And then I see you too. I see you too. I see everybody, all right? I'm keeping track. You think I'm not? I am. Here we go.
So, how does it feel to have made the definitive? This is the version. Can we raise this?
Yeah, sure. You can take it right out of there if you'd like. Everyone.
Thank you. So, how does it feel to have made the definitive? This is what we believe the villain is. Kind of villain for Batman, Superman. Hell, any kind of the characters. That's what everyone bases their writing, their assumptions, everything, all based on things like the animated shows, and you guys did that. How does it feel?
Great question.
It feels good. I mean, it's interesting that a lot of what we did ended up going into motion pictures.
Yep.
The Mr. Freeze story ended up going in motion pictures. We had created Harley, and Harley ended up being the fourth most popular character in the DC comic book lineup. And who would have thought that would have happened? But, so we feel pretty good about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because Alan came up with not just like Batman, like solidifying origins of characters, but Brainiac on Superman. That was your idea, that Brainiac was Kryptonian.
Yeah, I always thought that. When they ever do Superman, they always start off with Lex Luthor. And my feeling was, why always do Brainiac? Nobody's talking about Brainiac in these movies. And he's a great villain, and he's the perfect villain for our age, this AI age, and it's just perfect.
Yeah, well ahead of its time.
Yeah, so we did the first Superman show. It was really a Super Jor-El show.
Yeah.
We never saw Superman until show number 2, and that established that Brainiac came from Krypton, and it was sort of the internet of Krypton, the protective internet of Krypton, who ended up destroying Krypton and then keeping it in a little. Keeping part of it in a little
Goosebumps really over here about the origin of Brainiac. Thank you very much for that. That's amazing.
It's funny because even Bruce was like, you know, and like Bruce likes to push the envelope and change stuff, but Bruce was like, "Oh my gosh, should we do this? Can we do this?" And then he was like, "Yeah, you know." And we took it to DC, and DC was like cool with it. So yeah, let's go for it.
It's like a provocative idea.
Yeah.
All right, another fan question. Come on up.
Giganto.
And you can grab it if you like. Or you can there you go.
So I want to pivot over to Justice League the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited. Some of my favorite episodes are the ones where you get big villain teams like Secret Society and Injustice for All. What's the process like choosing those villains? Because these are villains that you don't see a lot, like, you know, Giganta and Killer Frost, but somehow their relationships work and they're just really cool. So how did you choose those villains?
Great question.
It's a very good question, and a lot of times things get kind of legal and technical because you try to create good teams that contrast and the villains that apply to certain heroes, but a lot of times you're stuck with stuff that DC goes, "Oh no, you can't use that for some reason or another." We were stuck with what they called the embargo, the Bat embargo, where we couldn't use a lot of Batman villains because he had the Batman series already. So, and then they were developing something for Aquaman, so we couldn't use a lot of Aquaman's villains either. So there were things where we had limitations that made it difficult. But it was. You know, it was fun pairing the villains off with each other. It was neat.
It's a great lesson for anything in life. Use what you got.
Use what you got.
Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes it's about what you got on hand.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Great question. We got another fan question. I see some popping up. Come on up. I see you. I know you had your hand up. I see you.
Given the fact that you have to like work within like certain constraints in animation, is it a favorite scene like from all the vast library of things that's created that you like really like stood out the most to you guys?
A scene that stood out from like all
Like
of
as far as the animation
entire
wise.
DCAU, like
Well,
the entire. Yeah, I mean,
I guess yeah.
Yeah,
that's
no,
just-
I can tell you. Clayface Part 2. The scene where Clayface goes crazy and all the TV monitors and he sees himself and he's like his face and he gets electrocuted and all of that crap. It was the most amazing animation I'd ever seen in my life. That was extraordinary.
Goosebumps.
And the other one was Over the Edge, where the animation in that episode was phenomenal and some of the best acting we've ever seen in the entire run. So it was amazing.
Yeah, see, the Clayface Part 2, I've never seen animation like that on TV. You have to understand, Clayface is changing. That's hard enough.
Yeah.
But in the background are like a dozen
Yep.
monitors
Yep.
with different shows going on, and it was, I don't know how they did it. To this day, I was saying, they must have busted the bank over
Right.
in Japan where it was animated. I mean, it was just amazing.
And,
And
yeah.
so occasionally there's little touches that I like, and one that in particular was in the Two-Face episode, where Harvey Dent is being interviewed by his psychiatrist, and things are getting a little weird, and there's a storm going outside, and at one point there's lightning, and Harvey goes into black and white, looking like Two-Face. You get the idea. This is going to be Two-Face.
Yeah.
And that was
Foreshadowing.
Kevin boarded that.
Boarded that.
And it was it was a lightning flash, and it was just like just a few frames. It was one of those things where it was just a few frames. You see Two-Face's face on top of Harvey in the bright light of the lightning. It was amazing.
It was great. So stuff like that I like.
Great answers. Another fan question. You want to come on up if you'd like. No pressure.
Hi. It's not really a fan question, but how would you change someone's entire opinion of a character with the character just saying a few words or less?
So I think the question is, if you have a character, you want to make a lot come across from the character, you only have a limited amount of time to do so. How do you do it? How do you get someone's character to come across Is that?
Not quite like that. Just like have the character say a few lines and just like.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You
Have
got
the
it.
character say a few lines and make someone question what that character really is.
Just from a few lines of dialogue in a scene, you don't get a lot of time to define that character. How do you approach that? Is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Great.
Well,
Maybe.
I guess it's and by the way,
Thank you.
I want a little dialogue. When I was a producer and writer and I was overseeing other people's scripts, I would say to them, if I saw more than 6 lines of dialogue, and I'm talking, dialogue lines which are very short, there were more than 6 lines without a break in action, I would get upset. Say it's just not going to play for animation. But you're asking a question: how do you convey something quickly in a character? Sometimes it's the reaction that other characters have to them that tells you everything. But I'm mumbling here. In animation in particular, it's best to be as succinct as you can be in conveying information about characters.
What I hear from the question too is that you agree. It's fewer words is better sometimes.
Do you have a favorite scene like that?
I don't really watch your show.
That's fair.
But I've seen a show where a character was like talking to another character and then just said just 3 words that completely changed how the character might actually feel.
Very cool. Well, thank you for the question. We'll do another fan question as well. And we have, let's go with you right here. We're going to start going to the back a little bit. I've helped the front out a lot. Let's help the back out. Come on up. You can hold the mic or you can just talk into it.
Nice shirt.
Yeah, thank you. That Clayface scene is one of the best animations ever. But my question is there any, if you could go back to Tim's Gotham City, is there a storyline or character since, or even that has come out since then, that you wish you could have touched on, worked with, done more storylines that you could have done, or something that maybe you wanted to do that they were like, you absolutely cannot do that?
Personally, one of my favorite comics, the Walt Simonson and Archie Goodwin's Manhunter, was one of those things that I thought was a great comic. It was a limited comic series. It ran just a few issues in Detective, and it was a great story arc, and I thought that would have applied really well to our show. I think there were reasons Bruce didn't like the costume for animation, didn't think it would work, and also because there's a storyline that he kills and Batman doesn't. I don't know if BS&P, we could have probably have gotten away with it, but it would have been a tricky thing to write because you don't really, we didn't deal with a lot of murdering in the show, so it would have been a tricky thing to adapt. But I always sort of regretted that. That and Swamp Thing. I love the team up between Swamp Thing and Batman, and that would have been a cool thing to do. But after a while, we weren't allowed to. Swamp Thing became a Vertigo character, and we weren't allowed to touch any Vertigo stuff. So then that became difficult. But that would have been a fun thing.
We tried to do a story on Nocturna.
Yeah.
She was a vampire. And it was maybe the only time that Broadcast Standards, BS&P, said, we don't want bite marks on necks. We can't have bloody bite marks. And that ended it for us. But that was the only villain I remember that we couldn't do.
And then a few years later, Buffy the Vampire Slayer became huge, and I'm sure they would have tried to find a way to let us. They would have softened the tone on it, but at that time, it wasn't possible.
Great question. Thank you. Okay, how about we jump around a little bit? We've talked a lot about Batman. How about Batwoman? We did Mystery of the Batwoman.
That's Alan.
Let's talk about like that character and getting to do that movie.
Well, Mystery of the Batwoman was something I wanted to do very badly, and it was very quickly written. It was written like in about 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, really, it was
Holy
fast,
moly.
fast, fast. And I had to have 2 scripts. I had to have 2 scripts for the powers that be to decide which one they wanted to do. So we wrote 2 scripts within about 3 weeks. The other one was a Batman sort of Batman's Greatest Adventures kind of story, which was never made. But Batwoman was interesting because if you ever see the show, I'm giving something away. It's got a very interesting secret identity to it, and it's another show where Bruce actually gets the girl, and you don't often see that. But that was our Batwoman story.
Any questions in this area so far? It's okay if not. There we go. Go ahead. Come on up. Oh, we got 2 people. Let's do a line. You're right after her, okay?
Yeah.
Hi, this is a question that you sort of touched on earlier with the blur effect for Superman.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you approach depicting powers in a way that were just so extraordinary for such a large cast of character and making them unique.
Great question.
Wow. A difficult one to answer.
Yeah, like, because we don't have superpowers. How'd you do that?
In terms of how,
It's like, how did you approach the animation style? And, you're coming up with the blur effect. You're coming up with Superman doing these great things. I mean, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, for crying out loud.
the thing with like Green Lantern was funny because Bruce didn't want to do initially like all the constructs, which makes Green Lantern Green Lantern. He wanted to take it more literally, so it was just sort of like, let's not do, and that was kind of, in hindsight, a mistake, because we wanted to treat it more like a weapon. So it's a beam, or it's a shield, or so we were kind of limiting, and it also kind of made it easier for us, so we didn't have to design a big giant hand for a thing, or he's catching people with a hand or something like that, or a big catcher's mitt. We didn't want to fly swatters. We didn't want to do any of that. But then when we did the Justice Guild episode, and the Green Guardsman had a similar ring, and he did all of that stuff, it realized how much fun that was. And then we played a little bit more with different shapes that Green Lantern could use later on.
We got 1 week, or however much time till the next cut.
But the Flash, you went to the comics, and we went, okay, the multiple images. All right, let's try to go for that, because we'd already done the smear for Superman. So let's try a different effect for him. So we try to like do the double exposed, blur effect, sort of more like the comic for that sort of traditional, sort of effects for that. It's every character had a different thing going,
Really, really fun question. Nice job. Come on up, sir. Let's get yours in here.
I really appreciate the insight on the smear effect. I missed that when it wasn't used in Justice League. So,
yeah, you didn't notice.
Kudos to you for coming up with it. And Mr. Burnett, I have an old magazine I've held on to for 33 years. That's mainly an interview with you just before the premiere of Batman the Animated Series, and it really is an in-depth interview that talks about the cast and the production and a little bit about the test video, the test movie that was made by Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski to kind of get the network on board. But in particular, it also talks about the Joker's Favor episode and mentions how the character of Charlie Collins is based on you. And I know you didn't write or direct that episode, but I was wondering if you had any direct input on the portrayal of that character, or if they listened to you, or if they purposely maybe ignored any suggestions you had.
Okay, well, he's talking about Joker's Favor. I'm in that because it's a story about a poor Schlemiel who has a run-in with the Joker, and the Joker, he's afraid the Joker's going to kill him, and the Joker says, someday you might do me a favor. I'm going to let you go now. And so 3 years later, he gets called to do a favor for the Joker, and that's me 30 years ago when we were doing the series. Bruce Timm had his fun. And that show, I didn't realize I was in the show until I saw the storyboards. Yeah. And but it was also the first show to feature Harley Quinn. She wasn't in costume yet. She was just the girlfriend. Right. And so I was in there with Harley Quinn. So it was a great feeling. But I didn't know it was going to be me until that time. And the voice was. Was it? Who? Ed Begley Jr.
Look at this real fan out here. Thank you.
There you go.
And he got a little bit of a laugh out of realizing it was me. So, anyways.
More fan questions. Batman, do you have a fan question?
This guy has a question.
Oh my God! Come on up, man. Sorry, I just saw Batman out of the corner of my eye. So after we'll get you up here. Any Batman, actually. But come on up, man.
Batman all the time.
Hey guys. I was wondering what your relationship with Kevin Conroy was like, and if you had any like stories or memories with him.
Kevin Conroy stories. Great one.
Kevin Conroy. Well, Kevin was great. Kevin was. Get this. Kevin went to school at where did he go to school? Juilliard. And Christopher Reeve was there in the same class. And Robin Williams, Popeye, was next door to him. And so they all knew each other. He was a stage actor. He did not know anything about Batman before he started our show. And then when he got, and they had been through 100 voices, easy, before he came in the studio. And suddenly it was like, voila, that's him. I wasn't there at the time. This was before I got there.
Amazing.
But he knew nothing about Batman, but he certainly became Batman through the years. He loved it. He loved going to the cons. He loved booming his voice to the crowd. And I understood that his apartment in New York had one room that was dedicated to Batman. So he was a great fellow.
Great.
He was sort of the rock of our show, and the fact that he went from Batman, and then he guest starred on Superman when we brought Batman back, and there was an interesting thing because there was this anticipation, almost. The people felt almost not threatened, but there was an intimidation because he sort of controlled the room just by his presence. He was a kind man. He wasn't like a he wasn't like he wasn't imposing in a negative way. It was awesome. It was just positive energy that he was always the focal point. And even when we were doing Batman Beyond and he wasn't the main star, he was still the figurehead, the father figure of the recording booth, and everybody took their cues off of him. And even on Justice League, he was the center of the show, even though it was an ensemble. It was amazing how much influence he had on the entire DCAU.
He brought that into the live action toward the end and got to be, I think it was Crisis maybe, and he just kind of took over the show, even though he was only in a few scenes. You were like, give me more of this real life Batman Beyond with Conroy behind it. It was amazing. It was a full circle moment.
And he gave so much of himself to not just like the fans at conventions and stuff, but apparently I didn't realize he had done charity stuff, and he was like the big brother to a bunch of kids that you were doing the stuff on the side, and they didn't believe that he was Batman, so he came in costume once, and which I would love to have seen. He was, and also he volunteered when 9/11 happened. He volunteered to help feed the first responders because New York was his town, and his brother had been a firefighter. He wasn't killed, but he was a firefighter, and he just felt a kinship with the city and with all that it had been through. So I mean, he really is a hero.
Well said. We'll say thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. All right, Batman, come on up. We got about 10 more minutes, so we're going to the last call here. If you got any final questions, here we go.
So when I was walking up, I heard you refer to Over the Edge.
Get right up on there.
When I was walking up, I heard you refer to Over the Edge.
Over the Edge, yes.
Yes, which is my personal favorite episode.
right.
It's the only Batman episode I sat there and like, what is going on? What is going on through so much of it? And I'm not sure who wrote it.
Paul Dini.
Paul Dini, right? Okay. But my question is, being that you were associated with both versions, what's your favorite version? The earlier with the blue and the yellow logo, or the later?
Great question. Did everybody get that?
Hey, so which version of Batman is the favorite of all the designs and all of that, right?
Favorite Batman.
Well, the first 85 episodes, I liked that. But you know what? For the second bunch of Batmans that we did, Bruce wanted to sort of slim down everybody, and it looked great too. So,
Yeah.
But you know, nostalgic-wise, I'm partial to the first group.
Yeah, no, that's funny because there's aspects of all of them that I liked a lot. I tend to like to draw the second version more. I wasn't as big a fan of the oval because I was like 3 or 4 when DC did the new look, and my brother was a comic collector. So I had seen the older Batman with just the regular bat before he had the yellow oval. And even though I love the Adam West show, I really just liked the simple bat logo. So when we were allowed to change it, and then eventually the comics followed us, I kind of preferred that. But I think I like the Justice League design because it kind of incorporates the two. The highlight came back, and that head shape with the ears, the bigger ears, kind of feel more like the original Batman. So I kind of gravitate towards that too. That's really fun to draw.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Batman, for everything. Here we go. Another fan question coming to the end. The next panel will start about right at 12:30, and but we're still having fun here with Dan and Alan. We'll have another fan question here.
All right. So you guys are basically well known for pioneering the DC animated universe, which spawns obviously Batman animated series and Justice League, but a show that's technically a part of the DC animated universe that I feel like got a lot more appreciation as the years went on is Static Shock. Can you guys kind of tell me about how that process went of taking it from Milestone and incorporating it to the overall DC universe and bringing that to life?
We're talking about Static Shock. Great question.
Static Shock. I used to get all the comics from DC every month, and in boxes, and inevitably the ones I would read are Milestone. Milestone had Static Shock and a bunch of other minority characters to them, and they were just the most lively group of comics. And Dwayne McDuffie was largely responsible. He was a writer who was largely responsible for it. And I actually sold Static Shock to the network on a one-sentence pitch. I held up the first comic and I said, this is Chris Rock at the age of 15. And that's all I had to say. We had a show. And one of the great things to come out of that show was Dwayne McDuffie, who was not in animation. He was living in Orlando, Florida with his mom, and I'm not sure what he was doing. I wasn't going great guns on anything. I got him to come to Los Angeles and become part of that show, and eventually he became part of, he was Mr. Justice League too.
Yep.
So, but I have a lot of affection for Static Shock, and it's being it's always being talked about as something that could happen in some way in the future, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. What surprises me is that there hasn't been a Static Shock movie or another Static Shock series since then. But I think if I had to bet my bank that someday they're going to
it'll
revise.
happen.
Yeah, but thanks for that question.
Yeah, and I had the privilege of directing Dwayne's first script that he ever wrote, ever, for a Static Shock episode. I directed that. And Rubber Band Man, yeah. And I ended up working with him on Justice League, and then after Warner's on Ben 10. So I directed his first script that he'd ever written for television and the last script that he ever wrote for television as well. So I got to work with Dwayne for a long time. Even pitched a series at Disney with him. So Dwayne was a dear friend and a genius, a real genius.
Genius, absolute genius. Absolute. I mean, and he's passed from us.
Yeah.
But while he was here, he was amazing.
Dan, Alan, let's end on a personal note. All right, Alan, where do you reside? Where are you at?
Both of us are in the way back. We're the last people you see at the Heroic Art Gallery before you leave.
What about in real life?
And where am I in real life?
Yeah.
I live in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida now. And occasionally I'll do a comic book here and there, but I'm retired now. But I love getting out of Florida, so I love being here.
Heck yes. And Dan, what about you? Where are you at in real life? And then
In real life, I live in Santa Clarita, California.
California.
And I'm again doing the conventions now, and occasional illustrating books and things here and there. So
Guys, Dan Riba and Alan Burnett, please give it up for these two legends.
Thank you.
They made it here to hang out with you. We got big names. This Comic-Con's not messing around. We're just getting started. See these guys at their booth in the back. They are signing. They've got their artwork. And we're all so grateful for you guys spending your time with us. Thank you so much. We'll see you around. Yes, of course. Two Rivers Comic-Con. We'll see you back at 12:30, guys. Go have fun.